Good evening, people, or midday, or morning, or wherever anyone is in the world. Welcome to the 6th episode of the Infinity Gas with me, NovaBlue, and
me, ChessPieceFace.
And yeah, today we're doing a slightly different show. We haven't got any guests on. It's just going to be me and Chess. We're going to be basically doing deck reviews. We're going to be going through a bunch of decks, the top tier meta decks at the moment. We're going to be going through some fun decks and stuff like that. So it's going to be good. So you want to stick around for the rest of the show. So what have you been up to this week, Chess?
Well, this week was the week with the major UI patch, which happened at basically the night after we recorded our last cast. And I ended up staying up like all night waiting for that patch, and it was, kind of buggy. It was kind of buggy.
Oh yeah, it still is.
No, what are you talking about? Perfect.
Yeah.
So the week was kind of, I don't want to say it was marred by that, but it was definitely defined by that. The week ended up being pretty defined by this new implementation, the new quest system, and trying to get stuff to work with it. Draft wasn't tracking for a couple days, so that for me, like, I was really hitting my stride with draft recently. I was really enjoying it, and I couldn't draft for a while. So I got a little frustrated, and I got into a little like mental bad place over doing that. But it's all good. I ended up playing a couple other games and getting really positive response from my viewers. So that was kind of a good feeling.
That's good, yeah.
But things picked back up. So I did a show last night, and draft's fine, and Lightmare's obviously on top of what they're doing. It was just it was kind of a tough week. It interrupted my flow.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I get you. Honestly, it didn't really faze me that much with all the bugs and things. Usually it does. Usually it kind of annoys me a bit, or I'll get frustrated with it. But honestly, when the patch was up, like, I know this sounds gonna sound bad, but I expect loads of bugs. Obviously, I know that sounds really bad, but obviously because they're a small team, like, yeah, it's beta. Beta is beta. But honestly, it didn't really faze me that much. I just carried on and just played a load of Constructed. I've only actually picked draft back up properly in the past couple of days, because I've just been playing loads of Constructed until the draft was fixed, and then, yeah.
Well, I would do, except I've encountered this issue where when I play Constructed, it keeps matching me against the same person again and again. And I can't make it stop. And it's not like an official bug, so I don't know if it's just me or what, if there's some sort of connectivity thing going on. But like once I play somebody like, if it depends who it is, it's a different person every night. Like one night it was Nido Egger, one night it was WW Knight, one night it was somebody else. But once I played them once, I just keep getting them again and again and again. And if their deck is a hard counter to the deck I want to play, it's like being trapped in Jean-Paul Sartre play. It's like just hell in existence. It's
oh dear, I can imagine that would be. Yeah, but honestly, well, we should talk about the new achievement system. What's your overall first impressions? Obviously, obviously disregard the bugs, but.
Yeah, of course. My overall impression is it's pretty cool. I like the bling. I like
bit of bling. Oh yes.
I like the restructuring. I like that there's more goals than there were previously, and that you feel like the game has different areas that you can achieve things in. I like that I like that the system's modular, so they're clearly going to be able to add more and more achievements over time. It's not like the static system we had before, where you're either going to max out on factions or do all your weekly quests. That was the end of it. Like, they could add stuff. I thought the did you do the event challenge quest?
I think I have finished it. Yes, I think I finished it today actually.
Well, it's over. It was already over today.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I actually managed to finish it. I'm not sure. I think I did.
I made
the
a
winners
point.
Haven't been announced yet, have they?
No, but I made a point to finish it, and I thought that was really enjoyable. Like, I mean, it took me 3 or 4 days to do because I kind of, like to take my time, but I thought that was really cool. A lot of people seemed unhappy that it was a difficult quest and that it seemed unattainable to them. But to me, as somebody, if you're going to play the game 6 hours a day, it's nice that there are big scale goals like that. I really hope Terramis does more of that. And to me, it's that was really a super cool thing. Like, I understand why some people were frustrated by it and didn't quite appreciate. They felt like they were under too much time pressure, or that the goal was too difficult for them because they didn't like that it was. For those of you who didn't catch it, the goal was to win 35 games with above 50 health and above 50 morale. So you had to totally outclass your opponent in 35 games in like 3 or 4 days. And there's been some talk on the forums and some people saying they thought this was unfair for them to make a quest that was so hard and things like that. But I asked my stream, like, well, shouldn't there be stuff like that? Like, what if, what is there for a player like me who's going to play it all day if there isn't stuff like that? Every quest shouldn't be for every person, I thought.
Yeah, and I completely agree, yeah. Having harder quests is definitely good. It's definitely for the more veteran players of the game, and I think, because honestly, the quests before, they were just like, oh, win 20 games, you're just going to do that without even thinking about it, or play 3 merged epic games, like, oh yeah, because everyone wants to do that. So yeah, I completely agree with you. But I do like the new system. It is, as you say, you can add so much more stuff to it, and from going from just the levels to that, it's like you have so many more goals. You have so many more goals. You can log in and be right, I want to get to 10 Rift Run wins today and get my silver medal. Or you log in and go, right, I'm actually going to go and fight the bots and get those 100 kills on the bots.
Yeah, because we're going to totally do that.
Oh, I know, but some people will want to do that, and it gives the people who just want to play against the AI the chance to actually achieve something for what they're doing.
But that's something I actually don't like, because one of the medals of the main 5 medals, one of them is AI playing, and like I hadn't ever played an AI because I'm a PvP player, and so I had to, just so that there wouldn't be a blank spot in my medals, I had to go play one AI game, and it's like I don't like feeling like forced to do things that that don't interest me just to make my profile look pretty. Like, I felt stupid going into, on the loading screen, it shows all your medals for those of you who haven't seen that yet. And I felt stupid like having a blank there as a pretty experienced, fairly pro player, to have like just a blank on my medal screen seemed like pretty lame, but
no, that's exactly what I did. I went and got my 5 wins medal, so I was like, all right then.
I only did the 1 win medal. I only got the iron.
You're rebelling. You just want the bare minimum.
Bell end? You just called me a bell end.
No, I didn't. I said you were rebelling. I didn't call you.
Rebellion. I see. I thought you just called me. We don't call people that word here. That's
No, I said you're rebelling.
Oh, I am rebelling. That's right. I'm not a bell end. Thank you.
Yeah. But no, the overall system's great, and there's some really good stuff with it. And there's also the teaser of the hard mode of the campaign as well, which I probably will do, actually, I think, when it comes out.
Well, my understanding is that it's not just going to be a hard mode, they're actually redoing the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So it's not just going to be a hard mode of the existing campaign, that all the missions are getting revamped. They're reprogramming the AI, there's going to be all new AI, the AIs will get all new decks in the campaign.
Hopefully and not cheat anymore.
Yeah, hopefully the AI will be competent that they don't need to do that. But yeah, they sort of teased it, but it's not ready yet. But that, I think, will be huge. My campaign progress is 39%, and I've been playing the game for going on 6 months. And now there's a medal. I guess I have one incentive to finish it, but I don't care.
Well, no, you should, because the cat little icon you get, the cat.
The bandit cat.
Yeah, the bandit cat is glorious. It's one of the best avatars there is.
You have the avatar with the fat guy with the glowing eyes, like
Yeah, the
the fat
transcendent
bald.
one. Yeah, that's the level 50 one.
That's pretty intense.
Oh,
That's a
it's
pretty
awesome.
cool avatar.
Yeah, I love that one. My thing's very, very shiny, having that multicolored medal of the level 50, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, but you also got the turquoise border that you shouldn't exactly
Oh yeah,
have.
yeah, I have that as well. Which, it's just, yeah, well, oh well, it's not my fault. It looks
No,
shiny.
does look
I
shiny.
like, you know me, I like shiny things.
You can't turn it off. In fairness, even if you wanted to be like, I don't deserve this, you can't turn it off. So
Yeah, so I'm just accepting that they think I'm that good. So,
that's what I would do.
Yeah,
That's what I would do.
yeah, exactly. All right. Is there anything else you want to add before we start on the decks?
Not really. Oh, this right now as we're recording this, three members of the executive team of Lightmare are at Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, California, USA, and there's about to be a huge announcement of future content for the game. It's something that they've kept really secret, and nobody actually knows what it is.
Nope.
But it's not something that's already been announced. It's not. It's going to be a big deal. They went all the way. These guys flew from Australia to San Francisco to announce it, and we're waiting on this announcement ourselves. If it had been announced, if we could confirm it had been announced, we'd talk about it right now. Big. By the time you see this, maybe it'll have been announced, or at least it could be by the time you see this, because you might not watch this for several days after we recorded. But as of right now, we're waiting on a huge announcement in terms of future content for the game, and I know it's something that Lightmare is very excited about, and that should kind of put Infinity Wars on the map a little bit more as a unique product.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and I think that'll probably be the topic of next week's cast, most likely. So yes, look out for that. So right, let's jump into the decks. First one I think we're going to look at is the Karani deck. Something that a lot of people are playing and is extremely powerful. Obviously it's all based around the Karani, which gives you extra resources when you play out each turn with the ramp and the beasts and just throwing it all out there. Obviously the one on screen is just one version of it. There are different variations of it with the command zone mainly. The rest of it's pretty staple, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, some people want to play an extra Karani on the draw, but Karani's pretty solid. With 10 hit points, you can only really assassinate a Karani unless some people don't play the Karani into combat. Other people do. It's higher risk to put the Karani on the battlefield. You got your lioness with puppies is pretty precious.
Of course. I mean, come on, lioness with puppies.
I hear a lot of griping about this deck. A lot of people feel like I hear it's being played a lot. I don't come across it that much, but I'm being told it's being played a lot.
Yeah, well, I know what you mean. Like sometimes you don't see it. Sometimes I won't see it all stream, and sometimes I'll see it like 7-8 times in a stream. So it just obviously depends who you're playing against, because it is, in all intents and purposes, quite an expensive deck. Because you have like the primals, the Skras, obviously the Karanis as well. The rest of it is fairly easy to get a hold of, but as long as you have one Karani, you can still pretty much.
Well, the untaps too. The untaps are
of course,
rares.
the untaps, yeah, of course. So yeah,
I don't know. In my experience, like, I feel like the traditional Warpath beatdown, the 5 pack leader Wealthy Noble command, is pretty damn fast. Like, it's not, if you get a good hand with Karani, you're going to be faster. But I've beaten Karani decks with the straight up Warpath beatdown, and it doesn't mean that the Warpath beatdown's better. The Karani has more staying power against other things. But I also feel like with the Karani deck, you play out your hand a lot faster. You can end up... I'm not sure... This is my question about Karani. I mean, obviously, it's way additional ramp for Warpath. But being able to play extra cards per turn doesn't do any good if you have no cards in your hand.
That's true, because obviously if you reach that critical mass where you've got pretty much everything out, and then the opponent counters you. The opponent blocks all the stuff. It kills a couple of your creatures, and then he can start playing creatures slowly but surely, and he's going to end up with more than you. So yeah, I get where you're coming from. Or you get mass death.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you've got no play. You got no play after that. Absolutely no play after that. But you can rush them down extremely quickly with this deck if you get it right. If you get a good hand. Like.
Yeah, when I tested this deck, I mean, you and I did some testing together back in the day, and I went for a lot more one of many's because I felt like I could get them out cheaply. Although this deck has the Enraged Hulkers and the one of many's, which are basically on the same price point.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I went for way more 3 costs because they're only 2 with Untapped Wilderness, and they're essentially free with Karani. And that was my strategy at the time. But obviously, you need a little more flexibility than that if you want to be prepared for anything in the meta. The one weakness of this particular build is the only anti-flying it has is those 2 Killaroos, and that's
true. But then again, if you've got to that stage where you have to start defending,
yeah, you probably screwed up.
Yeah, you have probably screwed up. Yeah, exactly. So obviously, I think the bane of this deck is probably like Varoria. And things like that. Turn 6 for Varoria. Sure. But then again, they do have a distinct advantage, like over Flame Dawn and stuff, with their rush, because of Scars and Unstoppables and things like that. So they can still push through. Yeah, it's a fun deck. It probably needs to be toned down a little bit, and I think Rob said last week that he wants to tone it down a little bit, along with the 3 Varroa, which we'll show in a minute. So, yeah. Is there anything you want to add about this deck?
No. It's a popular deck. It works. There's a reason it's popular.
Exactly. So let me switch to the Varroa deck. Right, here we go. Triple Varroa, the bane of pretty much everyone's existence at the moment. I know it's the bane of mine. So many people are playing it. There's so many different there's different variants regarding things that you put in the deck, but for the most part, the core stuff like the Annihilates, the Summoning Stones, the Hydras, the Dark Wishes, the Demon of Fears, the Varroias, the Mass Deaths, Lightning Blasts, those are pretty much the staple.
Yeah, the main variant to me is whether you play Demons of Fear in Command or not. There was, before the recent patch, there were people playing Ether Acolytes in Command with this deck, always. And that was quite strong, but the Ether Acolyte got slowed down. But I know some people don't prefer to play Demons of Fear, although I think now with the changed Ether Acolyte, Demon of Fear is probably always the way to go.
I think so, yeah. Especially how powerful flying is itself. So just a flying 10/10 is just incredible by itself.
The only drawback to playing Demons of Fear and Hydras is the morale. You don't want to get moraled out in a triple COV deck. You're trying to morale out the opponent if you can. And 5 Demons of Fear and 2 or 3 Hydras is basically 100 morale right there. So that's dangerous. But if that's only creatures you've got, then you can't. And then if you put up Varoria, you start ticking down your own morale. So there's some high risk to that. But I heard we had Manchi on the show, and he said if he finds himself in that situation, he just doesn't play as Demons of Fear. So that's an option.
Yeah, that's a fair strategy. So, but yeah, it is super potent. To be honest, the thing that's just destroyed me most of the times is the Summoning Stone. You get multiple Summoning Stones out, and you're just like, wow, I have no artifact removal in my deck. There's nothing I can do about this. Absolutely nothing I can do about this.
I've seen varying strategies on how to use the Summoning Stones. I've seen some people use them to make 4/4 tokens again and again, and some people build them up to make really huge flyers. Like, I'm inclined to build them up to make really huge flyers, but making 4/4 tokens again and again is not a terrible plan.
No, not at all. I think maybe better off somewhere in the middle, like maybe like 6/6 or 8/8. I think would probably be more efficient, because obviously you got things like Yuanshi's Wrath and stuff. Because if you're obviously not going to make loads of 4/4s if you're up against the DoD deck, because that's just suicide, morale-wise, I think. But yeah, I get where you're coming from with that. I've seen a lot of different plays, and Varoria is just stops so much rush.
Best location in the game right now. It is the reason anyone plays Rift the Old World or Cleanse the Land is specifically for Varoria. There's no other location as worth destroying as Varoria. Bottom line, it is the problem location in the game right now. Hopefully they're going to add. I mean, Kirillic is a bit of an issue in the sleeper deck, but not as big. It doesn't completely shut you down the way Varoria does. Varoria. I think hopefully in Ascension we're going to see. Oh, we totally forgot to mention that they started previewing the Ascension cards this week. By the way,
of course, yeah.
I just said it, and I thought about Robbie was on the show last night, and he said they're going to start previewing it, and they did. That happened. So new cards for the new set are already in the game. We'll talk about that in the end or something, but we totally forgot.
We did.
So hopefully in that set there will be more locations to make location hate worthwhile. Because right now you're playing that Rift just for Varoria, and that's kind of.
Well, it does depend what deck you're playing because. Well, the one thing about Varoria I will say is a double-edged sword. If you play it wrong, you screw yourself in the foot. You just completely shoot yourself in the foot with morale. If you play it wrong, I've even seen people play it and then kind of decide this is the wrong thing and actually use Rift of the Old World on themselves.
Or they play a Hellmouth to replace it. I've seen that.
Because I've won a lot of games. Like they play Varoria, I'm like, damn, I'm not going to win via that. I can win via morale. I just have to be patient and defend. And if you're smart about it, you can win. If they play it early enough, you can do pretty well with it and win via morale like most of the time if you're clever with it.
Yeah, when I play triple COV or a morale deck with Varoria, it doesn't have to be triple. If I'm playing Varoria, I only allow one to stay in my hand, shuffle the other one away, and I delay playing it until I think there's a rush coming I can't deal with through control. It's never something I just throw out there to get out there. I'd rather burn resources or not play my full amount on a turn than just throw up Varoria to throw it up there.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of people I've seen people, like, I've not been rushing them at all, and they still throw out Varoria, and it's like, well, why? I think someone did that to me today, actually. Like, turn 6, they played a Varoria, and I was like, I'm playing DoD. I'm not attacking you with, like, an invincible defender and infected monk. I'm like, why are you playing Varoria? And then I just won via morale because of it.
Yeah. So there's finesse to this deck, even though everyone says it's OP, and a lot of people say it's OP, and they're not correct, but it is strong, and there's still a lot of finesse to it, in my opinion, and there's a lot of different ways you can play a deck like this, even though it seems like pretty stock.
Oh yeah, there's just the little subtle things within the deck that change how people play it, so yeah. But as Robbie said last week, he's probably going to bring bring Varroa down a little bit, triple purity wise, because it can deal with pretty much everything, and you can win via morale and win via rushdown as well with Varroa.
Well, it did move Death Ray to uncommon for draft purposes in this last patch, which I think is a pretty hardcore change, actually. Pretty hardcore for me. I
do kind of agree with it though. Like, I think it's better at uncommon at this level. Like before before infestation, I think common was fine, but uncommon now is good. I think it's the same with this same story with the splitter bot. I think that change was good, and the same with the death ray as well.
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion either way. I just know it changes the way I draft for Varroa. But Hubris is very strong at common, and I'll take it. Agreed.
You get a lot, like so many people are drafting 3 COV at the moment just to get the Dark Wishes and the Annihilates. They're just drafting 3 COV over and over again just to get them the Demon of Fears and everything. So
yeah, very high trade value. I did like to brag that I managed to get 3 Platinum Dark Wishes in trade, and I'm so happy about it. No. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to get those.
Yeah. I may be the last person ever to trade for cards like that. So I mean, who knows? There's people with alpha accounts that may reappear and have these cards to trade. But I know most of the active players, so
Yeah.
if I think something's hard to get, it probably is hard to get.
It is, definitely. Alright, so should we move on to the Hakeem the Corrupted deck? Stick on the 3
All right.
purity. Where is my Hakeem? It's right at the bottom. There we go. Hakeem the Corrupted. Obviously, again, there's different versions of that. This is just the one we put together for the stream. The YouTubes.
The podcast.
Yeah, you know what I mean, guys. You know what I mean. So yeah, as you know, this deck works. You throw out lots of stuff, and then you play Hakeem at the right moment. Boom! All your stuff's back. You kill your opponent and win.
And you could keep doing that. I mean, the main combo of this deck is the Tome of the Dead and Hakeem. What you ideally want to do is get a Tome of the Dead out. You want to start playing cheap creatures. You want a Tome of the Dead out on turn 3. By turn 6, you want to wipe the board. Turn 7, you want a Hakeem. Bring everything back. Start a new Tome of the Dead. And do it all again and again until you just keep... that's the ideal situation for this deck.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's very scary. One comment I get a lot is why the cyber-infested dragons in this deck, and I have 2 reasons for it. It may not be the best idea. There maybe you could do better with some cheaper sleepers for the Hakeem bust, but A, if you don't get your combo off, it gives you some late game, it gives you some defense against flying, and B, when they die, they do put hordes in the grave, which count towards the Hakeem revival.
That's true. And it does give you some late game as well if you don't have the right cards in your hand and such.
Yeah, this deck has no closers without it, so...
Yeah, but no, I kind of agree that I wouldn't necessarily put 3 in, maybe 2 maximum, I think. I think 3 is probably a bit too many, but yeah. But like, since the Bloodthirst change, Dead Fester, oh my god, he's brilliant.
And the Bloodthirsty Dead for 2 is pretty boss.
Oh, definitely. Just all Bloodthirst things, they're just infinitely more potent now. Like, they just completely and utterly wreck Flame Dawn. Completely wreck if they defend with them. And that's before you even played the Hakeem combo and everything. Yeah, so it's a pretty solid deck. It is weak to flyers. Very, very weak to flyers. That's probably another reason for the Infested Dragon.
That's your only defense. I mean, you have 1 in this version I put together. I have 1 eaten by zombies, which is your only hard removal besides the Tome. And the Cyber-Infested Dragon, granted, is probably the weakest dragon. It's only got 10 hit points, but it is infectious. So even if it gets blocked by a Demon of Fear and dies to it, it will infect the Demon of Fear. So
that's true. Yeah, there are other things you could add into the deck, like Coralic. He's obviously always a good one. But it is funny with the Sleeper versus Sleeper match, and one of them plays a Coralic, and it's mayhem. It is mayhem.
Yeah, I think it's a horrible mechanic, honestly. But so that was the thing. This deck, instead of the Decrepit Crystal, this had a Coralic originally, and I decided that I liked if I could get out the Decrepit Crystal, it's only a 1 of because I'm not depending on it, but because it combos with the Hakeem, which is the main combo of the deck, the Decrepit Crystal is pretty nice. If you can get that out before the Hakeem cycles, that's constant buffs to everything that you're bringing back in, and that's really nice.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, because imagine bringing back like 10 to 15 small cost creatures, and they all get +2/+2 with a Decrepit Crystal with a Hakeem. Like,
yeah, and it combos with the Recurring Nightmares. And is worth noting, the other thing that you can do with this deck is if you don't draw into your Hakeems, you can awaken or raise dead your Hakeem. If you only ever get the one from command, or somebody assassinates the one from command, you don't draw into the other Hakeems, you can raise dead that Hakeem for even less than the cost of Hakeem and cause the combo to take effect anyway. And that's a really strong thing about this deck.
Oh, definitely, definitely. So yeah, it's fun. Like as I said, weak to flyers. It's not top tier, but it's definitely up there. It's definitely extremely popular in draft. If you draft 3 Purity Sleepers in draft, it's very popular and it's very potent. because you're pretty much guaranteed to get the Akeems and the Overwhelming Dead. So you are getting value for your 3 purity straight up.
Yeah, and the inevitable deads are very nice also because they if you it's something worth no, I guess that's the other thing with the Cyber Infested Dragon in this deck. Last thing I have to say about it is because the inevitable deads popped your hand at the start of the turn. If you have 3 inevitable deads in your deck, turn 1 you actually end up with 8 cards, not 5. And so if you happen to get a Cyber Infested Dragon in your opening hand, the inevitable deads pop to the top. You have 8 cards. You play a card out of your command on the first turn. On turn 2, you'll be prompted to discard. So if you drew into Cyber Infested Dragon, you can you're guaranteed to discard it on turn 2, which means you'll be able to awaken it on turn 5 for 5, and instead of waiting till turn 10. And that's a great reason to have Cyber Infested Dragon in this deck.
Yes. Oh yes.
Because
I completely forgot about that, to be honest.
Inevitable Dead.
Yeah.
I forget about it too, and then it reminds me. I'm like, oh yeah, but this, do that.
Yeah, that's pretty potent actually, and the fact that you've got 3 Raised Deads and 2 Awakens in there as well, so you're gonna get that in your hand hopefully is pretty quickly as well. So
probably before turn 10.
Yeah, probably yeah. So it's pretty damn good, and also you've got the fears like the turn 9 Fear Hakeem combo. If you kind of like losing, that's really good. Just buys you a turn and you get all your creatures back. Something that's been used quite a bit. Alright then. Right, what deck would you like to move on to next, my friend?
Let's look at one of yours. Let's look at the I don't know what
let's look at the Hermit one, because I want to discuss this one. Obviously, if I can find it, here it is. This was my attempt at a Hermit deck. Obviously, with the commands, is not very good at the moment. It's not top tier, but I wanted to try it anyway. I did really want to try it.
Yeah, I think most people who are playing Hermit don't put the Hermit in command right now because you can't get the big beasts.
Yeah, that's true. But then it's kind of like I wanted to make a deck around him, not necessarily just have him as an extra in the deck. But it actually works surprisingly well, even though it's only 1 purity Warpath, 1 purity Varroa. Because obviously comboed with the Elator, he doesn't die. It's almost impossible. If you let him die, then you've done something extremely wrong.
Well, I think if there is a change to the way hybrids function in command, and you can get Warpath purity off the Hermit, this deck would be off the hook.
Oh, it would, yes. Well, going either way would still be good.
Yeah. But
I think the 2 Warpath one would be stronger than the 2 Varroa one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, being able to play Scars in the deck is a big deal. Being able to play Pack Leaders in the deck is a big deal. So you've got Varroa Brutes. You're trying a Varroa Brute strategy, which I guess you have the Matriarch, the Hermit, the Caretaker,
Yep.
and Rakarl, and Hakeem. So I guess you actually have a lot more uniques in here than it looks like at first glance. That's an interesting idea. I wouldn't have thought to combo Varroa Brute with the Defiant Hermit because the Brute's a human, so he's going to take damage from the Hermit. But
then you got the Elator to buff him. Like you do turn 1 buff on the Hermit, and then after that you can buff the Brute up. And obviously because it's being only an 8/8 and having 8 health, but it only takes 2 damage every 2 turns from the Hermit. So, but like what turn 1 because he gives him what. Because it hits obviously the Hermit hits himself and the Elator, so he gets +8 straight off the bat. So it becomes a 16/6 straight off the bat. As soon as the Hermit pays his dues. So he gets pretty big pretty quick. Like I've had a huge Brute played from command when I actually played this deck. I think the turn 6 or 7 because of the opponent's commanders, I had like over 50-60 damage on my Brute.
Yeah, I get the command Brute. I don't know, like maybe for the in-deck Brutes you could have Beasts of Burden or something like that to get a little more value out of the Hermits, I think.
That's true.
But
there's plenty of beasts in the deck though. There's no shortage at all.
That's true.
But once you get the buff rolling, once like this game early on, it's a little bit slow. But once you get it rolling, when you've got like say like 3 or 4 beasts out, man, it can get big. It can go pretty damn big, especially with the Elator as well. So you get the +2/+2, and then you buff something's health up, and like the Skraz Young just becomes huge once you enrage it. With quite little effort actually. But I think you should try it if you haven't tried it already. Like, I think you'll be actually surprised how well it works.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I mean, now obviously I've got this image now, and I didn't look at this before we started, and I'm just surprised just because the only Hermit decks I've seen run a Hermit on the draw and not in command because of the purity issue. But you play a shitload. If you're finding this effective, I take your word for it any time.
Obviously, it's not top tier, but it's winning over half of its games, and I'd say that's a good.
It's at least good enough to be fun. That's for sure.
It's fun. That's one of the main things, I think. It's definitely fun to play.
Cool.
Oh yeah. And it gives me the chance to use the Hermit as well, because I haven't used him elsewhere.
Well, he's such a niche legendary. He's one of the most specific legendaries they've ever published. It may be the most specific legendary they've ever published. I mean, it only works. There's a Hermit deck, and that's kind of it. Like,
pretty much, yeah.
But in his context, he's amazing.
Oh yeah, he's cool. So yeah, which one would you like to look at next? You want to pick one of yours then, my friend?
Well, let's look at my GI Sleeper deck. This is like my top deck right now.
Okay, let me find
I've
it.
Talked a lot about it on my stream. Pretty much anybody who watches my cast has seen this deck in the last couple of weeks because it's my winningest deck at the moment, and I play it a lot.
So yeah, I'll let you roll on this one because it's your deck, so go for it, bro.
Well, I mean, I'm interested in what you have to say about it. I talk about it all the time, but you know, it's I don't actually have much to say about it. The one thing is it's taking advantage of the new Infected Drone Tinkerer combo, which did get nerfed. It was stronger before the patch this week when you could buff the Infected Drone to 11/11, but now you can buff him to 10/10, and it's still quite good. Still quite good. It wasn't. I was worried I was going to need to change the deck because of the change to the card, and I don't. It's still very good. You can still get out a 10/10 turn 2 with this deck, and
yeah, that's still pretty strong.
I usually find with this deck by turn 4, I'm hitting for 30 damage. So this is like the closest thing to a GI rush I've ever played, and it even manages to get in the Undead Corruption Zombie on combo, which is one of the strongest removal combos in the game.
Oh yes, of course. Obviously you got the Lucas scouting missions. You obviously got the Angelifies. What? Any reason why you haven't got any give him a jetpacks in here as well?
Just a matter of there not being room. There's only 4 rares in the deck right now, so I do like when I show this deck to people. The Tinkerer, you can't do this without the Tinkerer. That's the essential rare. Yeah. You can absolutely replace the Angelifies with give him a jetpacks. But you know me, I like to play a tight deck, and I would have to lose something for the jetpacks. And like some people wouldn't play the cannon fodders, but I find cannon fodders can be amazingly useful with GI.
Yeah. I agree.
People think they're worthless because of their stat line, but having a 0-cost haster that you can construct things onto out of nowhere, it's basically unstoppable. Nobody knows it's coming. You can construct all your other targets onto it and have it be a completely surprise thing. The combo of artificials with a constructor and cannon fodder is top notch if you know how to play it.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because the main other combo, which we won't be doing in this deck, but I will mention, is the combo where you play the cannon fodder out and you buff it into the constructor in command on turn 1. So the constructor becomes a 1/6 and it's defended against lightning blast, firebolts, and stuff like that. It's a pretty...
Oh, I've never thought about that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really use it, and when I said it in my stream, maybe it was actually a couple of days ago, everyone was like, "Whoa, why haven't I been using this?" It's a really good protection strategy for your constructor. Obviously, if they've got a lightning blast, they're probably going to get it on their priority, but it lessens the chances of it actually being killed.
If you have a construction command, that's a great turn one play. If you have nothing else, that's really good. I never thought of that. That's another great use for cannon fodder.
Yeah,
I use them the completely opposite. I use them as a haste, as a free haste to constructed artificial in this deck. But that's a great use for it.
yeah, but also if you throw him out and you use Tinker on him, and then you've got a 3/4 for like 1 with haste.
Yeah, and nobody sees it coming. Again, exactly the same thing. It's extra. It's free damage. But the best use, in my opinion, is to get him out and construct all your other targets onto it, because nobody can death ray it. As long as it's your priority and you get the jump on them, the cannon fodder is basically nobody can see it coming.
Yeah, exactly. So what's this deck weak to? What have you lost to the most with this deck then? Maybe Karani deck, possibly? If they rush you down quick enough.
Yeah, it's definitely weak to Karani. The creatures are too big. It can be weak to Sleeper Rush if you don't get enough flying going. It also the deck we're going to look at a little bit later, which is a sort of hyped up flamed on Sleeper Rush, can actually rush this down. Anytime with this deck, this is an aggro deck. It may not look like an aggro deck because it's GI and it's got these combos, but I'm an aggro player, and this is an aggro deck for me. And anytime I have to go on the defense with this deck, I basically am in trouble. This is a tempo deck, is a GI sleeper tempo deck, and I want to stay on the aggro. I want them down at half health by turn 5, and that's how I want this deck to play out. And anytime I end up having to use my 10-10 on turn 2 to start blocking, there goes my tempo completely. So anytime you have to keep this deck on its heels, basically.
Yeah, I can understand that. But no, it looks good, and I will try this actually, because I don't really play that much GI in general, really.
I never did either. This is actually my first GI deck I really enjoyed.
That's good. Like the only other GI deck, I really play, and that's only on occasion, is either my Flying Ram deck or the Bionic Pally, of course, which we will look at in a bit as well. I think we're looking at both actually. Have I got mine?
Yeah, I see them both here in the list of stuff we got.
Awesome. I love my Flaming Ram deck, but we'll get to that later. All right then. But no, I like this deck, and I think a lot of people are using it because of you.
Yeah. That's weird. It's a weird thing for me. I think I've turned a lot of people. I mean, other people, in fairness, about 4 other players shared their GI sleeper decks with me, and then I said, okay, thanks for the ideas, and I made my own version. So definitely a lot of people helped me do it, but it is my build of the deck, my optimization of the deck, and I haven't changed it since I did it. But I won every ranked game I've played with it, not to get everyone playing it now. But it is weird to me because I view myself as mostly an entertainer and a media person. It's strange that I'm having any effect on the meta of the game at all, because I've not been a top player or anything. Although I'm getting there. I'm getting a lot stronger. It's enjoyable, and it's cool. It's cool to have influence on what people are playing, that people want to try your ideas. That's really kind of nice.
I agree. Like when even now, even today, someone came to my stream and just went, "I'm still playing your Aspirant Z Rush Spam deck," and I'm like, "All right."
I'm still playing your cheapest deck ever.
And it's still good. It's still good. It's still pretty decent. Especially with Saculus now. It's even better with Saculus. But yeah. Alright then. Which one should we move on to next?
I guess we could look at Caretaker, Immovable Caretaker, which is a pretty strong meta deck.
Where is it? Let me find that. Movable Caretaker. Yes, this one. Mine has a lot of shinies in it. But yeah, I'll just sort it so you can probably see it. That's better. There we go. Yeah, this is honestly, I'm gonna say this deck. It's very, very hit and miss. Like, obviously, it's good against like Karani decks and Rush decks and stuff like that. But
why are you short and immovable in this deck?
Because I only wanted to put 2 in. I think this is my altered version. I'm not sure, but I haven't really played this deck play tested this deck much.
Yeah, I definitely play 3 immovables, but fair enough.
Honestly, I've never found that I needed 3. Like, sometimes I've managed to get like 2 of them in my hand, and I never use the other one. And it's like, well, that's just a waste. So I'd rather have something else. I could put another removable in there, but
Yeah, I feel like this deck is hit and miss on who's gonna win, but what's not hit and miss about it is that it has immense staying power.
oh, of course, yeah,
You can drag a game out forever with this deck.
definitely, especially with the Z, the general blocking, the buffing from a later, the Yuan-Shi just over and over again because of the later. So yeah, and you've obviously got the Shrine in there for against control decks. So it's pretty good, and the Gao Han is really good because people don't realize this, but he's immune to stumbles and exhausts. He still stays in the defense zone, so you can't waste him with exhaust. So you have to use a hard removal on him. You have to kill him with something. So it's pretty good. Obviously, I think rush decks can still overpower this deck quickly, especially Karani decks.
Yeah, but you've got the Yuan-Shi and the Wraths to kind of soften that up at least.
True. If you started with the Yuan-Shis early as you can with the Karani, but then again, if you're committing all your resources to that, they're still going to have more health. If they bring out multiple pack leaders, then you're kind of screwed. But no, as I said, I've had very hit and miss with this. Like, against COV, it doesn't do too well at all, if I'm honest. Like, it does have the Shrine, but you have to pull the Shrine. Like, if you wanted to make it better, then maybe put 3 Shrines in if you're facing a lot of COV and stuff. But then again, it's still not got that many creatures to play with. Obviously, you've got the Z to bring out tokens, but then stuff has to die first, and a lot of the stuff has quite a big chunk of morale. Because you look at the Martyrs, the Recalls, the Immovables, the Gao Hands even, they're like 6 morale. It adds up pretty quickly.
I agree with you. It's worth noting for the sake of comparison that some people consider this a top deck in the meta. I find it difficult to play as well, and I find it not as direct to the point as the decks I prefer to play.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And obviously, being a DoD lover, this deck is fun, but I prefer to play other versions of DoD decks. I just find them more enjoyable. As I said, like this deck is hard to play. It is very hard to play properly. The problem with it is like getting its attacking power up. If you're against a control deck, trying to because obviously they're going to sit back and defend and use their control spells on you, so you have to beat them via actually beating them down, and that's quite hard. Obviously with a lot of stuff with vigilance, and the creatures you do bring out are not very many and they're quite big, so they're going to get sniped quite easily. So those are the issues I do have with it, but it is a good deck, don't get me wrong. I sound very negative about it, but it is a good deck and it is fun to play.
Yeah, I mean it is a top deck, and it's just very difficult amongst the top decks. It's one of the least straightforward top decks, and it takes a lot of finesse. It takes a lot of finesse, and it is quite draw dependent, I think.
Oh, definitely. But yeah, all right then. Should we carry on with the DoD theme?
Sure. I know how much you like that.
Indeed, I do want to talk about my Julin deck. This was in like, I've obviously made a lot of DoD decks in my time. But
really, why is that, Nova? Why are you making DoD decks?
But actually, Rebellion inspired me to do this deck. Because he was like, "Oh, I'm playing Julin loads at the moment," and I'm like,
"Hi, Rebellion! Right. Shout out to Rebellion!
Shout out to Rebellion. Oh yeah! So I wanted to use my Julin and bring the Julin back, and I was like, when I kind of got the idea down and made this deck, it works surprisingly well against a lot of things. I've beaten Hunted Dragon decks with this. I've beaten Karani decks with it. I've beaten it. It does really, really well against Furore control. You play the Julin out, and they waste so much control on it. It's quite amusing. Like, I remember one game that I just played a Calamity, and obviously the Calamity doesn't remove Julin, it just removes a chapter. And then all he had left was control spells. And all he did was just kind of spam panicky death rays on it and stuff for like 20, 30 turns. It would just took forever. And he ended up moraling himself out because I didn't play anything else, just the Julin. And it just made me laugh, and I was like, wow, okay then. If you play this right, it can work.
Yeah, I don't. Julin is so not my style. Because it basically, I mean, what you just said is pretty much is a rare case that you can play only Julin and have it win.
Oh yeah, it's a very rare case.
Usually you have to seriously you have to seriously dig in to get Julin to work. In most cases, you have to have a serious hardcore defense and stay that way. And that, again, as an aggro player, it's not that fun to me.
Yeah, fair enough. I like the kind of... I think we're kind of the opposite. You like the fast-paced decks that you want to kill stuff really quickly and bash them in the face. I like the kind of very methodical, sitting back and thinking about it and taking 5 turns to make a play. And stuff like this, but with the Julin, it worked. Like, even if you play it out in obviously the defense zone, that's why there are 2 walls in there as well, because the walls just, wow, they do so much work. If you gain control of the defense zone, it's like almost GG with DoD. If you have control of the defense zone, they've got a rush, usually with like a Warpath rush or a Flame Dawn rush or whatever. If I've not got decent draws, they could still get me down to like 40 to 30 health, kind of something around that. But then after that, I bring out enough stuff that I can gain control. I can play stuff like a Zhu Shen to gain control, or play an Immovable to gain control of my defense zone. And then you play the Julin out, and it's more of a distraction. They waste death rays on it, they waste snipes on it, they waste resources killing it. When it doesn't need to be. And then the rest of the time you can build up your defense even more. And
well, it is scary. It is scary that it could hit 4 chapters and win the game. I mean, it's a constant threat. So it's hard to say that they don't need to. It's just it allows you to make all these other plays. So it is a great contingency in that regard.
Yeah.
You can't let it just sit in defense and build up. That's not an option either.
Oh, no, of course, no. But it's really good, and like I've got I put 1 bell and 1 shifting stone in here. That's probably doesn't seem worth it in the long run, but it makes it like if you have that in your starting hand, it makes the whole way you play for that match completely different. And I like the fact that you can play this deck multiple ways. You can play it as a morale deck, you can play it as a Julin deck. You can play it as a Shifting Stone combo deck if you get it in your hand. You can do it all kinds of ways. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
But the thing is, it's a 3-period EOD with no 3-period cards in it, because they're not actually worthwhile putting in. Actually, really, you could put 1 surprise defense in here. There's no real point though.
Well, if you have 3 immovables in your hand and you bust surprise defense,
well, that's true.
That'll break any rush.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But the thing is, like, surprise defense is good for early rush and stuff like that. But you don't want to play surprise defense early on, because you'll have all your low cost cards in your hand and they'll just die first, and then they'll be just wasted. So there is that. So when you play surprise defense, you want to play it so you have control of your hand, and you have a 4 or 5 cost hand as the highest card in your hand. So then it actually is useful.
Yeah, I mean, the combo of surprise defense and Aushans is obviously the most attractive.
But honestly, I didn't see space. If I saw space, if I could make space, then I would. And again, I put the 3 Eagle Eyes in as well. Like, a lot of people just put 1 or 2 maybe max, but they have saved my life so many times with this deck. They are so strong. Eagle Eyes, I love them.
I think it's a great card. There was some question initially of how effective it would be, but truth is, I've never regretted playing an Eagle Eye. It's good every time you play it.
Yeah. And even if you don't defend with it, even if they don't attack with anything, you switch it over to defense, and if you've got a decent amount of creatures, it's going to hit like a truck.
Yeah, it's a great card. It's DoD needed that card. It's great on defense. It's great on offense, and it scales. So it's great with Shrine decks. It's great with little Flame Donny action. It's just great. It's great for DoD.
Oh, definitely, definitely. All right then. Moving on.
Speaking of Flame Donny action, why don't we look at Bojangles' Flame Dawn Sufferer deck? This is he gave it a very unfortunate.
Was that CC's one or the other one?
No, this is a Flame Dawn Sufferer deck from Bojangles, or Gear Checks Are Difficult on Twitch. He gave it a very unfortunate name in his.
Yeah, I've just got it infected Flame Dawn.
It's what's noteworthy about this deck. Okay, he's a relatively new player. I want to give him credit for this. I made a point of not sharing my optimized version. I made some changes to this deck to play it my own way and put in a lot more high value cards. But you notice this is just like my GI deck. This is a 4 rare deck. And that I think is important that we're showing some 4 rare decks, and that's why I selected this deck for us to show. Is that I think it's strong for what it is, and what it is a Flame Dawn Rush backed up by the power of Sufferer and Overwhelming Dead, and comboing into the Infested Knight. There's things I wouldn't do in this deck, but I'm deliberately sharing it in Bojangles' original state because I think he should be proud of himself. I think it's a strong deck. I've played against it and it's beaten me, and I think it's neat for what it is. The main idea, of course, is to do this aspirant Overwhelming Dead rush and let them die. You have the Saculuses if you can keep them out on the field, and if you can't, you got the Sufferer who can bring them back every turn. And as your graveyard fills up, your Infested Knights can become these huge closers. And of course, they have charge. So it's an interesting deck idea. I would build it a little different myself, but again, for a 4 rare deck, this is highly competitive in my opinion.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Especially with the Saculus, and the Saculus Awaken combo is just amazing.
Love it.
You like, if you have an Awaken in your hand and you've used your, because obviously most of the time with this deck you want to rush down with as many aspirants as you can. Turn 4, you want to play that Saculus pretty much, get it out there. And if you've got another one in your hand, you definitely want to play that Saculus on turn 4. And following that, you try and kill the Saculus. After that, if you have an Awaken in your hand or another Saculus, you're pretty much guaranteed to have one. And Saculuses are just... I am actually in love with Saculus at the moment. I use him way too much.
Is that homo or no homo?
Oh, full homo.
Wow. Wow.
I use him way too much. But he's a great closer, especially for this deck, because obviously they're all little creatures.
You may get excommunicated from the Church of England. You gotta be careful. That homo stuff.
Obviously they're all little creatures, so obviously they can't take down big things once they start defending properly, and then Saculus is the finisher. You just keep playing stuff out, getting loads of stuff in the support zone, and just Saculus away and finish it off.
Yeah, I mean, I've played against this, and it took me by surprise. It's a little bit of a weenie deck, but there's nothing wrong with a weenie deck.
Nope, of course not. Because after this one, we can show my my Flaming Daude deck, which is the similar concept, but using DoD. But yeah, is there anything you want to say on this deck before we move on?
Just big up to a new player coming up with an idea, making it work with a limited card pool, and sharing a deck with me that I found competitive enough to share with you guys. I mean, I think that should be motivational and inspiring to anyone else starting the game or just starting to build decks. That there are ideas that other people aren't playing that you can come up with that are strong and that people will respect your ideas. And I think Gearcheck should be proud of himself, and this is a cool deck.
Definitely. All right, cool. So yeah, if we move on to my Flaming Dowdy deck, which is one of my personal favorite decks at the moment. We'll point this out. Where are we? There we go. So it's basically the same kind of concept. You play lots and lots of little guys, but you do it in a different fashion. You obviously, if they die, you have a better way of rezzing them with the Z. And then obviously you have the Dowdy as well to make your little guys not so little. And especially that works really well with the affected monks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, this is one of the most annoying decks in the game.
Fair enough. I love it.
I'm sure it's fun to play, but to play against, this is just a heinous, terrible experience. Like I hate when I come across a deck like this one. It is the only real counter to this deck is Varroa. Is board wipes and calamities and other things that reset the control state. Because it's just, I mean, talk about a weenie deck.
True, but this deck does do pretty well against COV. I've played quite a bit of this in ranked actually, and it does pretty well against COV.
Well, what is the deck weak to? What's the secret to beating this deck?
Probably Karani Rush. I have beat a couple of Karani Rushes on occasion, but it's very, very difficult. Unless you pull an immovable, it's pretty much impossible to outrush, because it is a beatdown rush deck. Because you throw out all the little guys, they die, you bring them back with a Z, and then you use Saculus over and over again. The difference between this one and the previous deck, regarding Saculus, is this one will have more Saculus tokens out just throughout the entire game. It will keep the. If you're playing the deck right, you'll have more and more tokens as you play things. With the previous one, obviously you've only got the later creating one every turn. Obviously the Z can create more every turn, so therefore more Saculus, more damage. So Saculus is the finisher. He is the finisher. But against Varroa decks, the Purifiers have just done me wonders. Just done so much wonders. Like, you rush them down, you pull back, they play either a mass death or what's the support zone one called?
Desolation.
Desolation. There we go. Or play Desolation, and then you purify it, and then you're like, right, I can sit in my support zone and just play Saculuses the rest of the game, and you're safe. So it's a fun deck. It's a fun deck. I know you'll probably never play it because you hate it.
Well, to be honest, like I've started last night, I actually drafted a double Varroa single DoD morale deck, which
nice.
I never play morale decks, and I never. it came up in the draft. I'm like, okay, let's just for fun draft a morale deck just to see. And I went 4-0 and immediately and no problems. And I'm saving that draft for my next broadcast, so I haven't played it since. But it's just like immediate, and I was like, wait a minute, this is pretty fun. Like a guy came in, all in against me with a sleeper rush, and I got Ling Bao's Will Mass Death combo and did 100 morale damage in one go, and that's kind of satisfying. Like, so, I mean,
this is the
decks that I hate playing against doesn't mean, I'm starting to learn, like, maybe they're fun to play, maybe there's a reason I hate them.
That's true. That's definitely true. With all decks everyone hates to play against, they're always fun to play. It's always that way. You want to play them, but you never want to play against them.
Yeah, fix it, Nova, fix it. Make it not that way.
Oh, but it is, but it's fun. Morale decks are fun. I think a lot of the veteran players hold a lot of resentment for the morale decks because of that morale meta that the time of the morale meta was gives me shudders. But yeah, it's fun though. It's fun. Right, what other decks have we got left?
Let's take a look at CC's Pauper deck, the Tri-Faction Infested Hulker deck.
Okie
I want
dokie.
to give a shout out to CC for this deck. This is a deck, I mean, we've shown you a few 4 rare decks. This is a no rare deck that is also a challenge deck because people have been having a hell of a time making the Infested Hulker work. It's a neat card, but finding a combo that actually works with Infested Hulker is very difficult. And big props to CC25 for coming up with this deck and sharing it. This is a pure Pauper deck, and should be creatable by any player, and it is competitive. It's not a top tier deck, and it takes some real finesse to play because it's finely balanced and it's Tri-Faction. But neat deck, and the Infested Hulker hits like a truck in this deck.
Oh, I can imagine. But yeah, I honestly, this is the first time I've seen it, and it looks good. There's a lot of combos in there. So you've got the Zombie Gun, Undead Corruption. You've got the Luca Scouting Mission. It looks good. It does look good. Flying Drop Bears, you can see that with the... Flying Drop Bears is always a glorious thing to witness.
Yeah, and the obviously, I mean, the goal here is to... it's not a heavy creature deck, but the goal is to burn your creatures, get your grave full, and then get a flying Infested Hulker and just enrage it and hit like a truck, or leave it on the ground and infect everything with it. But the Infested Hulker is the closer in this deck, and because that's your closer, it makes it safe to get your other stuff slaughtered.
Pretty much, yeah. Because morale-wise, it's not too bad. Because obviously, we've just got the lots of little zombies from the 2/2s.
Overwhelming dead.
Overwhelming dead. Yeah, you've got a load of creatures from there that you can just rack up straight in there. Put them on the defense and just let them die. You got the splitter bots. Obviously, they technically create 3 graveyard tokens each when they're dead properly. Obviously, you've got the scouting missions, but most of the time they stay. Most of the time, actually, they stay alive. The scouting missions more often than not because of the flying. But
well, especially if you combo with Luca Anomaly.
Oh, of course, yeah. Of course. So I will probably try this deck now that I've got it built on my account. So yeah.
Yeah, for a pauper level, it's imaginative. It may not be the strongest pauper deck going, but the real challenge. I had a lot of people, particularly the player and streamer Zerolith, had been asking me again and again, like, has anybody seen an Infested Hulker deck that works? Has anybody seen that? And he was asking that for like a week or two, and I kept saying no, man. And one guy came along the stream with one that was that depended on the Tome of the Dead, and that was a little tricky. But CC came up with this one, and it has no dependencies. It's an independently strong deck, playable by anyone, and I think it's a real cool. And mad props to CC for making an awesome pauper deck.
Yeah. So how would you change it if you were to make it a non-pauper? Obviously, if you what would you add to it or take away from it?
Well, be really hard because it's Tri-Faction. So most of the better cards would be double purity of something anyway, you know. So I'm not really sure what rares you could put in here that would improve the deck that aren't single purity. Obviously, you could not play, if you want to still do Infested Hulker, you could lose Genesis and go double Sleeper, double Warpath, and still preserve the Infested Hulkery-ness of the deck. But you'd lose your Zombie Gon combo, you'd lose the Splitters, you'd lose the Scouting Drone Luca. Genesis is adding a lot to this deck.
Oh, it is, yeah, definitely.
I mean, honestly, the Sleepers are giving the least to this deck, and they're essential to make it an Infested Hulker deck.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, you can have a pretty decent rush down as well. Like, you play, obviously, Drop Bear, turn 1, you kind of leave him out there, ready to get enraged. You've obviously got the turn 3 Pack Leader, turn 4, Splitter from Command. So, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's good. It's good. I like it. I look forward to seeing it in some pauper tournaments, maybe.
Turn 4, you also have the option of Zombie Gun, or Undead Corruption Zombie Gun. If you're getting Flamed On Rushed, you can do that on turn 4 and stop a Flamed On Rush dead.
That's true. Awesome. Yeah, I do need to try an Infested Hulker, and I think I've got 3 platfoils infested hookers, so I can use them. So I can use them. All right, let's move on to some more Genesis with the Bionic Paladin. This deck is still strong. It was strong in the previous meta before Infestation, and honestly, I think it's a little bit better now. Actually, this is my version of it.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of different ways to play this deck.
Oh, yeah.
You can play it aspirant heavy, which is not a bad idea. But now that there's the infected drone combo, there's less reason to do that. You can also play a double flamed on version of the Bionic Pally. But this is as legit as any. I don't know that I would play. The highest risk thing about your version here is the bad bots. They have the potential to be a dead draw on occasion, but you got so many constructors, it's probably not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's not too bad. Like, actually, I'd probably want to take one of the bad bots out because it is 41 actually. So I'll probably leave two bad bots is probably good. But yeah, you play the Paladin out turn 2. If you have more Pallies, you play them out as well. Buff them, make them flying because before you only had the Angelifies to make them flying. Now you have the Angelifies and the Give him a Jetpacks, and that's one of the main clinches of this deck now. It has made it infinitely more better because you've got technically double the chances that you had before to make it flying.
Yeah, the suggestion I'd have for this deck is to play Deflex because this deck used to be basically immune, and now it's vulnerable to Hubris. And Deflect would fix that vulnerability.
That's true. That's true. But I think that's pretty much... If you get a decent hand and you get going with it, that's pretty much the only weakness. If you're against something else, then they're going to have a hard time stopping you.
Yeah, but it's a single purity common card. It's not a small weakness. It could be any Varroa Splash deck could Hubris a Pally.
Yeah, of course. But the thing is, like... a lot of people do play this deck. Obviously, you do play this deck by buffing the Paladins. That's the whole point of the deck. But you can play differently. You can do Scouting Mission Luca combos. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. Yeah,
you can play around your splitters for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And the cannon fodders and everything like that. It's not just one-sided. If your Pallies don't work out, that's your primary source. If your Pallies don't work out, it doesn't matter. You've still got all this other stuff that you can go. And obviously, if you get Hubris, you use the Purify on the Hubris, and then you're fine for the rest of the game.
Yeah, there's that.
So it's a really fun deck. It is quite... Obviously, you need the Pallies, which are quite rare. The Golems are not really necessary, so apart from the Pallies and the Angelifies and the Elator, it's pretty much... Not too expensive, but kind of mid-tier expensive, I'd say. The Pallies are quite hard to get a hold of, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're me.
Yeah, unless you're you. With like, how many have you got? Like 20 or something?
I think of 11 standard, 3 soulbound standard, and 4 platinum. But to be fair, a couple of them actually belong to my broadcast. A couple of the standard ones are actually giveaways that I can't give away right now.
Yeah. Thank you, Twitch. Let's not get into that. So yeah, Bionic Paladin. It's fun. And after this one, I quickly want to mention my Bionic Drop Bear, which is the same concept of this, but it's with drop bears. It's just fun.
Bionic Drop Bear.
Like, doesn't Bionic Drop Bear just sound so intimidating?
No.
Oh, come
that's
on.
like Cyborg Teddy Bear. It's like Cyborg Teddy Bear.
It's still good, but actually it works out better with the Constructor because you can turn 1, buff your Constructor's health and protect it from lightning blasts and stuff with the Elator. So that is the one bonus of this deck over the Poly deck. Obviously you don't have the charge and stuff, but you got the haste from the Killaroo buffing into that. You've obviously
the Constructor. How can you? Oh, with the Caretaker, you buff the Constructor.
Yeah. Which is good, which keeps it alive. If it's your priority, it's pretty much guaranteed to stay alive.
That's a cool idea.
So that does work, and this deck is actually fairly legit. it does work. I have put a deflect in it. I maybe put another one in it because obviously they're more vulnerable than the paladins.
Well, to be fair, though, this deck works because you have no obligation to actually make the drop bears bionic.
Yeah, but that's the whole point.
Everything else. You must. It's a prime directive.
If you don't win with a flying drop bear, you've just lost the point.
You failed.
You failed everything. But no, it's pretty good. Like having a flying Scrar's young, is pretty nice. Or a flying Killaroo, which I find quite amusing actually. It just seems he's jumping, but he stays up there, kind of thing. Yeah, I think so. I think someone was saying during the week that they should have some kind of like extra animation for when creatures get jetpacks. Like
they should.
Some of the combinations are just like, how does that even work?
Scrar with a jetpack has got to be the best. I mean, everyone wants that card.
Oh, definitely. No, I think in that one, I think it should be Scrar with like about 100 jetpacks on him to get him like lifted up a little bit, kind of thing.
well, what if he has one really big jetpack?
That could work as well.
Scrar-sized jetpack.
Oh, picked up by a plane or something. Or, but yeah, there should be some more. Give him a
That would be cool. He had like a starship strapped to his back that's like flying him up over the forest.
Oh god, that'd be scary, wouldn't it?
Oh, well, maybe that's the only way you get. Maybe it's the only jetpack that fits a Scrar.
Is a spaceship. Yeah, that sounds good. Anyway, yeah, we'll move on to a more serious deck. Which ones have we got left? We've got we've got my Flame Dawn Rush Calamity deck. This is one I used to play a lot in the previous meta, but I've tweaked for this one. It's quite good still-ish. You still have to get good draws, but the main idea behind it is you rush down your opponent as quick as you can. Because of Flame Dawn are kind of underpowered at the moment, you probably will fail at some point, and your rush will be stunted. As soon as that is, you pull back, defend, wait for Calamity, play Calamity, and then play a load of charge things, like having the combos with the Iberian's Banner and the Firestarter, for example, is an amazing combo.
Well, Firestarter is arguably the best card to have after a Calamity in the whole game.
Exactly, yeah. So along with the charge,
that's what I just like to point out. People constantly down on Firestarter because it's a low value card because it's available for retail sale. It is an awesome legendary. It is not like people like get bummed that they get Firestarters because don't have a high trade value right now. They are a great card though. It's really strong in its faction.
Mm-hmm. He's one of the best finishers in the game.
Yeah,
he is. But you've got a lot of combos with this deck. Obviously, you've got the control with the Death Rays and stuff. I haven't put Hubrises in them. I can't remember the reason why. I'm sure there was. But yeah, your opinions.
Not a deck I would play. I'm not. I mean, there are things I like about it, but don't like Praz. Don't like Iberian's Banner myself.
Yeah, I'll probably take Praz out to be honest. But
I am not convinced of the value of Uriel. I love the art on Uriel. He's one of the most boss cards ever.
Come at me, bro.
Come at me, bro. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. But I'm not... it's cool that he's unstoppable. It's cool that he's unstoppable.
I get what you mean. He is... I think he may need his health buffing a little bit or something to make him more viable, but he is good in certain situations. Like, if you've got an Iberian's Banner out and you play him, you've got a 15/15 unstoppable that wrecks their ramp.
He's basically a Scrar then, it's true.
So, like, Iberian's Banner is kind of almost key to this deck. It works incredibly well. Like, you play the rush out, but then you can play cautiously by pulling some stuff back and maybe just playing out the Demon of Fear and letting it hit with the Aberrant's Banner.
See, my problem with the banner is that in your starting hand, it's amazing. Later in the game, it's basically a dead draw, and that's what I don't like about it.
Not in this deck, because you've obviously got, you play the Calamity, and then you've got the Aberrant's Banner and Firestarter combo, which you can play for 10. So there are things you can play with it later.
All right, I buy that.
It's a fun deck. There's still probably better versions out there, but this is what I've managed to come up with so far. I'm probably going to tweak this a lot more. But it used to be really good in the previous meta, and I used to play it a lot because it was just fun.
Well, yeah, a double Flamed On single Roar was my main deck in Rise, and for a long time it was the deck that I kind of like. I graduated from straight Flamed On to that, and I played it a lot. And it was the reason I started collecting cards was to get the Pallies to make the deck, and it led to me having almost 10,000 cards. But I do really like. There's a weak spot in my heart for a double Flamed On single Roar, and I really hope that it regains its place in the meta in Ascension, because Flamed On lost a little in Infestation.
Yeah, it did, unfortunately. Did get slightly better when they brought up the Fanatics.
Yep.
But true, still, like, I've tried. I even made a triple Flamed On deck on my stream a couple of days ago, and played a bunch of matches with it because I just wanted to make it work. I just wanted to make it work, and it just kind of didn't.
Yeah, and the change to Fnatic does nothing for this deck.
No, of course. But yeah, they need some more stuff. But Robbie did say he promised he was giving them some love in the next set, so that's all good. That's all good.
I hope so.
Yeah. Have we gone all through the decks? I think we've got two more. Oh, we can share my Flying Ram deck. I don't play this deck enough.
Pretty old school idea.
Yeah, it's great though. It still works really well. I love this deck. This is probably the most requested deck on my stream. I will say that. Whenever I say which deck do you want to play, it's always Flying Ram. So it's fun. It's really fun. The basic idea of it is how you do it on turn 1, you think, right, am I going to have to defend or am I free to attack? If you're free to attack, you buff the Ram. If you need to defend, you buff the Splitter. And then you kind of... It's very weak early game. It's very weak early game, unfortunately. But obviously the plan is to make the Ram flying. Play it out, give it flying. And especially with the give him a jetpack now, it's better. And then you keep buffing it up, and it does just ridiculous damage. And then you use obviously the deflects and the fiery resolves to keep it alive, and the angelifies as well, of course.
Yeah, I am not a fan of the Flame Ram. There was a time where I tried it a lot, and it's to me, it's not quite aggro enough for what I want out of a card. I mean, obviously, if you buff it up and it's doing damage, it's a lot better. But I don't. For that deck slot, I'd rather have something that I can count on killing stuff.
I get what you mean. It's meant to be obviously attacking the fortress, and you got stuff like the bad bot and bomb bot, sorry, to blow everything up on the field, reset it and stuff. So you've got things that work in your favor with it, and you've obviously got the splitters, and it, for the most part, it does work quite well. It is weak against rush because obviously you're playing out for the you're trying to play out for the Ram, and it's all about the Ram. I should probably actually check out the Overload. I'll probably add another Fleeting Footman in this actually. I don't know why the Overload's in there actually.
People love the gimmick. Gimmick.
Yeah. And it's surprisingly good. It will surprise you if you play it. I promise you. You will win more than you'd expect.
What's it worth to you?
This deck?
No, me playing this deck.
You should at least try it. You should at least try it. Try it a couple of times. And see
I'll
what you
do
think.
it for a platfoil and movable.
No.
Oh.
That's nothing can ever. Something major would have to happen for me to give up that card.
Me playing this deck would be major, be huge.
No. I think that's pretty much all of them. All the decks we plan to go through.
Cool.
Oh no, wait, we got Zomborg Party Time. I love this deck. I made this deck as like a little bit of a gimmicky joke. It's really good. It's really good. You use Everly to bring out multiple Zomborgs. That's pretty much it. And then you just play lots of Zomborgs. It's incredibly expensive, this deck. It is incredibly expensive. It's got 6 legendaries. How many rares?
It's got
7, 8, 9, 10 rares? No, 13 rares. Yeah, 13 rares and 6 legendaries. It's not cheap at all, but it's hilarious. It's just brilliant.
Do the Zomborgs party hard?
Oh, they do. They do. Because you turn 1, obviously, you don't really do anything. Turn 2, if you have a Zomborg in your hand, you play it. Turn 3, you can bring out a Zomborg. Turn 4, you bring out another one. Turn 5, you bring out another one, and then you've just got 3 Zomborgs just getting bigger and bigger in your support zone. It's a bit weak to rush, but it's just fun to play. When you see someone just like, oh my god, there's 3 like flying cyber infested Zomborgs running around, it's like, woohoo! It's pretty damn fun. It's pretty damn fun. So yeah, cool. So that's all the decks we plan to go through. I just wanted to show this one because it's fun and gimmicky. But yeah, we're gonna make this. Obviously, in future casts, we're gonna make this kind of thing. We do like maybe 1 or 2 each week. So we're doing this as like a showcase of what we're going to be doing in the future. But we're going to be doing like 1 or 2 each week kind of thing. So please send us your decks, either on our stream or via the YouTube or wherever, and then we could potentially show your deck.
Yeah, but let's like at least try to have original idea. Try to have something try to show us something we haven't seen, so that we can be excited to share it with people. Don't just send us another triple Varroa deck. To be honest, like, not to be rude, but we don't care. Like, we can make that deck. Everyone can make that deck. Show us something we haven't seen. Show us something that's worth putting on the broadcast. But don't be shy either. Don't feel intimidated by that. I don't mean to be harsh. Just everybody likes to share, but try to share something neat. Like the decks from players that I highlighted here that we brought over are things that I hadn't seen before. I was like, this player deserves some recognition for this deck. So show us stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, do that. Before we leave, do you want to quickly show the new cards that have been previewed?
Oh yeah.
If I can just so we've got, where is it? I actually haven't got the Commando one because I've got the XP bug at the moment, which kind of sucks.
I got it. Too bad we're on your computer.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, but you can still show it in the quest reward.
Yeah, I can still show the quest reward. Yeah. So I'll just unfortunately I can't show my Mindbender because I've got this screen up, but you can see it just here. So it's got 4 costs, 9/8, plunder 1, which means it just So if Mindbender hits the opponent's fortress, they must discard a random card at the start of next turn. It's pretty cool. The artwork is phenomenal for it. Most people should have it by now. So yeah, what are your thoughts on it so far?
Great. I'm not an Exile fan. Not a shock to anybody. But the art is amazing. It's great. It's a promise of more Exile cards with mechanics on them to help finish out the set. And from what we have seen on test of the new artwork, it's all phenomenal. And I'm really excited for more diversity. And I think the effect on Mindbender of card burn on Fortress hit was kind of, everyone knew that was coming, and I'm glad to see it sooner than later. It fits. It's good. It's good.
Yeah. So yeah, here's the Flamed on Commando. Oh, sorry, slightly cut off, but because I haven't actually got the reward yet because my XP is bugged, so I'm not doing any XP, and it's the experience one, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, I can still see it anyway. Flame Dawn Commando was quite amusing because it got a nerf as soon as it came in. It originally did. So yeah, 1 cost 4/2 comes into play. It deals. It used to deal 3 damage to a character, but now it only deals 2.
I don't really understand that change since there's only 1 creature with 3 health that I can even think of. But
I agree, but still, I think 3 damage for 1 cost was, I don't know, plus a creature.
Yeah, it may be too good of a value. There's that.
Yeah, I think 2 damage is fine. But
I love the art on the card.
Yeah.
I love the effect of the card. It's so Flame Dawn-y, and yeah, I like everything about that card. I like everything about it.
It's going to be used a lot. It's cool. It's just adding lots of more little stuff, and it's good to give Flame Dawn. If they've seen more stuff like this in the new set, then it's going to be cool. More come into play, damage stuff would be nice. So yeah, it's definitely going to help Flame Dawn out in the future. All right then, I think that's it from us. Unless there's anything else you want to add, Chess, my friend.
No, just hyped for the announcement at GDC. You guys stay tuned. If that hasn't happened yet, keep your eyes peeled after this cast, between this cast and next cast. If you're watching this, there's probably some big hype about Infinity Wars out there by the time you watch this. And I'm excited. Nova's excited.
Yes.
Anything that's good for the game is good for us, good for this cast. It's good for our Twitch streams, which you should watch our Twitch streams. I have that to say. And
Twitch links are at the bottom. They'll be in the description below as well. So go check us out, our usual scheduled times. So yeah, and that's pretty much it from us. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Much appreciated. Hope you enjoyed this, and hope we see more deck reviews and stuff in the future. So thank you very much, guys, from me and from Chess. See you later, guys. Cheers.
Bye.